Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you learn to make more money in less time and have a lot more fun. I'm your host, Paul Sanneman. I'm founder of Contractor Staffing Source, where we help contractors build great teams. My guest today is Chris Lonergan from Footbridge Media. Um, I'm excited about, I don't get excited about any podcasts. I'm excited about this one because I've interviewed a lot of marketing companies and they all pretty much have the same pricing. And I looked at his and went, oh my God, how does he do that? So, Chris, tell us about your background, what you do, how you got started, and then we can talk about your exceptional pricing.
Sounds great. Thanks, Paul. So I'm with Footbridge Media. Footbridge Media as a company has been around since 2004. So we actually just celebrated 20 years this year. I've been with the company personally for about 12 years. Started off actually doing web design and I've held pretty much every job since then. I now help out with the marketing with Footbridge Media.
Okay.
And what we do is we work exclusively with contractors and home service folks. That's our core niche of folks we work with, very much like you, Paul.
Mhm. So tell me a little about how the company gets started, how did it get going, a little about your origin story.
Sure thing. So Aaron O'Hanlon, who's the owner here at Footbridge, he started the company because he actually worked for a lead generation company, and he realized how expensive and how sometimes not quality leads were. Third-party lead buying worked for folks, just normal small business folks, and he realized he'd rather teach people to fish. He really wanted to help people to build their own systems so that they didn't have to rely on very cost prohibitive, sometimes very highly competitive third party lead buying. It started off actually as a paper newsletter company and has
Hmm.
since evolved over the last 20 years to now be a full service marketing agency on the digital and the print side of things.
Okay, it's interesting, digital and print. Talk a little about digital and print.
So we believe in a full court press when it comes to your marketing presence. So it's important to have those core online marketing things, the things everyone's looking for, a website, a Google business profile. But it also makes sense, especially for contractors, to have something tangible, something that clients can hold on to. So it's very as simple as when you go to a job site, you can go and hang some door hangers around the neighborhood. You've got nice presentation folders if you're a remodeler to show off your work. It's really important to have a full experience when it comes to your marketing. So not just a one-dimensional website, not just only social media, but having a comprehensive marketing plan, having an environment, an ecosystem that you create for your business really makes the most sense. And that's got to be online and offline.
So you get into job signs and that kind of stuff. The whole nine
Yep,
yards. And
yard signs, EDDM postcards, door hangers, through Facebook ads, Google ads, the whole nine yards.
okay, because I know a lot of media agencies don't consider that their problems, so that's a good thing. Because it's funny, some of the most effective things I've found for contractors is door hangers. And they're not
100%.
much, right? So if you're building in a neighborhood and all the houses are accessible, sometimes a door hanger can pretty much guarantee you one job after another if you do it right, which is huge.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially for service industry folks like lawn care folks or pressure washing folks, where if they can take over a neighborhood and get really good neighborhood penetration,
Right.
less travel for them, less time in between jobs, really makes sense. And like you said, for such a low cost, and to go take 5 minutes to walk up and down the street in one direction and the other, definitely
Yeah,
makes sense.
the ROI is huge. So, tell me a little bit about what you do, because I noticed your website, it says something nobody else says, which says, like it actually gives the pricing, which I was shocked. It's like $249 a month. That's amazing. So tell me about how you're pricing, how it's structured, and how you manage to do something for that amount of money. Sounds
Yeah,
crazy.
absolutely. It's definitely a common question, sometimes concern that we get. A lot of folks think that we do that and then we're just outsourcing everything overseas or we're copy and pasting content. No, it really is that we are working hard to create unique content, unique websites for folks, a unique jumping off point for a business plan. So the 249 plan that you mentioned, it's our contractor marketing program, our core program. It includes helping folks to start a brand new website, so designing a new website, creating the content for that website, building and launching that website, establishing a Google business profile if they don't have one, helping out with local citations, so local optimization, helping out with search engine optimization, helping out with a review management system that's included in that service. And it's all held together by our marketing consultant team, the folks who, even after your site launch, they're a go-to contact, a dedicated phone number and email address for a single person that you can reach out to get marketing help, marketing assistance, marketing guidance where you need it and really where it makes sense to build up your business. All starts at 249 per month program. And yeah, there's No contracts. We don't have contracts. A lot of people think, oh, that low price, it must be locked in for 12, 18 months. But no, it's really a month to month 249 program. We try to work really hard to make sure we're earning our contractors business every single month.
Now, I come under it sounds too good to be true because I've interviewed a lot of marketing companies. Typically is 3 to 5 grand a month. That's pretty much, when I look at marketing companies. And they usually say 10% of revenue. So if you're doing 3 million, you need to spend whatever, 300,000 on marketing. These seems to break those rules. Can you explain to me how you can possibly do that? I'm a skeptic of it. Like, how could you possibly do that?
We're certainly willing to accept other people's money if they want to. That's always on the table for us. Really, what
Right.
we do is we tend to work with a lot of folks who are starting off their businesses, a lot of folks who maybe are transitioning from they had their friend or their cousin build their site, and they realize now to build a business they really need to take the next steps and be proactive. We've got the benefit of being a niche agency. We have a really fine-tuned model for what really works well for us. We understand the recipes that are needed to build sites, to create content that is effective for people, effective for search engines. So we're not copying and pasting, we're not templating, but we have a really good machine. And
Okay.
we're lucky to have a lot of good folks here that help us to run that machine. And because of that, we can create content at a smaller, at the same scale that we do, but without charging exorbitant fees. It's very much that we're locked into our niches. We work with a lot of pressure washers. We work with a lot of plumbers. We joke about how most of our staff know more about tankless water heaters than they'd ever thought they'd learn for being a web
Right.
design person or a writer or an ad person. So we really immersed ourselves in the industry so that we've got a good feed, we've got a good pulse on what makes contractors work, how to translate what a contractor is asking for and they need to what homeowners actually searching for so that we can connect those two.
Now, how do you get involved in the sales part at all, or how does that work? I mean, there's got to be a sales guy that goes out and makes a sales call, right?
This is as close to sales as we do. We don't have any traditional sales team. We've got content that we create. We try to make really useful content for our contractors to learn more about marketing, about business development. They share it with their friends who are also in the field, and then they come to us and they ask us questions. We've got folks that answer the phone when they call, but we don't have a dedicated sales team that goes out
Right,
there to beat
right, but
streets.
you can help them to get their sales team to be more effective, right?
So part of our marketing consultant team is we work with them to understand where are your weaknesses in your business. That might mean that we refer you to someone who specializes in SOPs and building up that part of your business. It might be as simple as let's talk about how you answer the phone. Let's talk about how you email and reach out to folks. Let's talk about how you do these interactions, how you schedule an estimate. So there's a little bit of business development in there as well as marketing.
Now, I've heard tell, maybe you're familiar with this, maybe not, where AI is getting to the point, and that's a huge thing in marketing these days, where it can actually answer the phone and set an appointment. Have you ever heard that? Does that actually work?
I have. I've played with a couple companies that have done that. Yeah.
That's
It's
interesting.
an interesting idea. I'm a big fan of using automation where you can to help out a business, especially
Right,
contractors. Contractors, attorneys, and doctors are the only folks really using calling services anymore, answering services really
right.
anymore. So AI answering, I think, can be a very interesting possibility if it's done really well. I've seen some companies doing really good work. It's never. I always say AI is never a substitution for a human. It's a good tool for humans to use. But I think that there's phone answering specifically is a very interesting one.
Because what's happening these days is, to me, maybe it's better than a call center in India, or it's better than a voice, like an answering machine or that kind of thing, where you can actually, because if somebody's especially going down there going click, 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 right? If nobody answers the phone, they're going to go to the next guy.
Yep, you got to at least be able to answer. And if you've got that AI system there to do it, to help you out with that part, if like you said, if it gets you to that next step, at that point, it still boils down to how quickly can that contractor turn around and make that positive connection after the AI does the handoff to you.
Right, right.
That's still
Appointment or
paramount.
something. Right, cool. So, give me a couple of success stories of companies you've worked with and how, if you don't do names, you don't want to, but how it's worked and how you've managed to make the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a couple of case studies on footbridgemedia.com. One of the most recent ones that comes to mind is with AMW Pressure Washing, who a very similar story for most of our contractors. He was doing the work by himself for a long time. He realized He didn't want to do that work. He didn't want to do the marketing work. He didn't want to worry about a website or his Google business profile. So he was referred to us through another vendor, came aboard with us, and we were able to help make his phone ring more, which made him happy. He's a small operation, so he's not looking to grow to multiple trucks. So he's not necessarily worried about doing a hard ad push here or a hard marketing push here for social media. He understands his lane, and we understand that with him. So we created a plan that is tailored to him, to his budget, so that he doesn't need to waste money trying to get leads that he doesn't necessarily want. And he's been able to get, last I talked to him, I think it was a 20% increase in his phone calls, which was the exact amount that he needed to make sure that he
Right.
was filling his schedule. And it worked really well for him. The ROI to him, that investment of, like you said, $249 per
Right.
month, that's a job for most
Right.
contractors.
It's
If
nothing. Yeah.
that, you
Right.
get one job a month that pays for itself.
Now, what about at another level? Say you've got an HVAC company or somebody's doing like 3 million. How would you work with them? Give me like a larger example of somebody you work with.
Absolutely. We still have those larger companies like HVAC folks that have to have capital to run a
Right.
business, the roofers and
Right.
construction folks, remodeling folks. There's still options there. What we do is we build kind of an a la carte menu for these contractors to figure out what they need. So that might include a more competitive Google Ads campaign where we know that we need to focus on some highly competitive areas. It may be a more expensive cost per click, but to them still there's an ROI there. There's still a
Mhm.
return. So really, we take each contractor on a case by case basis to understand what are your needs. Some contractors do everything that we have: email marketing, AI chat. They do our yard signs. They do everything. And we've got some folks who scale that back a little bit. So it's very much tailored to their specific needs. If we want Facebook ads, Google ads going full bore for 8 months out of the year, that's something that we can help.
Okay. So give me a success story of somebody over a million, couple million that you've worked with.
Yeah, so I think we've got an HVAC contractor who's the same, who they were doing well, but they wanted to outsource and offload their marketing needs, their website needs. And they came to us and they found that we really fit that niche. They're still able to work with us. Uh, they work with us. They're actually part of a beta program for a new service that we haven't even launched yet, because they understand that we're there to help deliver the leads to them, and we're very thankful that they're trusting of us to do that. But they're able to work with us, and Keith Heating and Cooling is the name of one of these companies here, who works with us and does Google Ads, has great performance, and has been with us for years at that 249 price, plus those add-on services. Even though it's been such a monumental return on investment for him at that cost, that it just made sense for him to stick with us. Interestingly enough, we've had some contractors who get a little bit bigger, and then they leave us to go to one of these companies like you talked about, these five, six, $7,000 a month companies minimum. Usually we see a lot of them finish out their 12-month contract and then come back, because they realize sometimes spending more money doesn't necessarily get you any better results. It doesn't get
Right.
you any better service when you've got a machine that's efficient, that works well.
Right. So what is the typical people? Is it like startup to 5 million? What's your sweet spot?
Yeah, I'd say that's a fairly accurate representation there. You've got some folks who it's a brand new business. We've got a lot of contractors who maybe they worked for someone else for a couple of years. They've figured out that they've watched their boss make enough money. They'd like to start their own
Right.
company up. And we get a lot of folks who come to us like that, or a lot of folks who have started marketing, but they've got a bad taste in their mouth because they started off with one of these more expensive agencies, or they started with an agency that didn't have that niche understanding of how local services work compared to brick and mortars and retail. So some folks come to us a little bit burned by the process, who are even, maybe they're a couple years along the road, but they still don't have a good core marketing experience for
Right.
them, for their unique needs. So we get a lot of folks kind of in that range there, the first, 0 to 5 to 10 years of business.
Okay. And so what happens when somebody asks you, look at, I was paying, pick a number, 5,000 or something, and you're going to charge me a fraction of that. How can I expect results for that kind of expense? I'm sure you get that occasionally, right?
100%. Yeah. And at that point, we usually point to our track record, truth be told. We've got 20 years of experience working with contractors. We've got tons of five-star reviews. We've got case studies. We've got lots of contractors who have talked about Footbridge for decades at this point, because we've really been, we've worked really hard to earn every bit of business that we get. One of the biggest times that Footbridge blew up as a company was in a decade and a half ago, when forums were the most popular communication over social media,
Right.
contractor forums were really blowing up about Footbridge and the success that contractors were having, and that word of mouth via these forums, was kind of a mainstay for the growth for the company.
Mhm.
And that's kind of still how we operate today. We very much, if people come to us, it's because they're referred to us from someone who is enjoying success. So
Okay.
when they ask us that question, we say, well, why don't you go ask John, see what John
Yeah.
says. He referred you over here. There's a reason why he did that. A lot of folks come to us afraid of that dollar amount. And it's understandable if for folks who have been burned before, who have used larger agencies. But at the same time, I think it's very possible when you've got a really good, well positioned, well oiled machine to spend less, but to get more out of it.
Right. Well, now, Chris, if people think this is too good to be true, which I'm one of them, but I think I mean, I'd have to check out your references, but it's definitely a disruptor in this industry because you're so far above everybody else. It's like, oh my God, how's he do that? So if they want to find out about you and interested how you're disrupting this industry, how can they get in touch with you?
Easiest ways to find us online, footbridgemedia.com.
Okay.
So go to footbridgemedia.com. You can see our case studies there. You can get links to our reviews there. And like you said, all of our pricing is very public there. You can see our core program price, so full breakdown of what's included. All of our add-on prices also are very clearly marked for what we charge for each service. So it's very straightforward, very easy process to get started on footbridgemedia.com.
Great. Well, according to this, most people in this podcast are probably spending too much on marketing, according to your business model. I mean, clearly, I don't know anybody's ever come close to this. So if you're interested in how this works and even think it's too good to be true, it's crazy not to call Chris, because if you have the evidence it's true, you'd be silly to spend, 5,000 and get by for, half that and get the same results. So thanks, Chris. I really appreciate you being here. And I think anybody looking at their marketing budget next year, not to look at this option just isn't smart.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks so much.